Hey everyone, I'm going to go back and talk over a topic that I've addressed a couple of times here, and that's the 3D printing using something like HueForge. And the reason I keep going over this is because it is such a unique offering for you to give your clients, right? It is something that's very rarely done. I've done some for people, and they've all, it's been received very well in all cases. And it's just something that is unique and still has that kind of wow factor to it, at least for now. I mean, as we all know, all the stuff eventually gets overused and that wow factor goes away. But what I wanted to talk about today is how you can help yourself out with some of this using Photoshop. Now, you're going to need to know what the colors are that are available on whatever printer this is going to go to. If you've got your own printer, something like a TD1S unit will give you the color codes of each one. This is going to get us partway there. And the reason I say partway there is because of the luminosity factor of it that is really going to come through, but that's okay for our purposes. Then you go into Photoshop, create a library specifically for that. Like I've got a Creality library because that's the printer that I've got. And then from there, I put in each of the swatches of color based off of what I have in the printer, based off of those numbers I got from a TD1S, which is just a small unit, runs off of USB. You slide the filament in, it reads the filament, gives you the hexadecimal codes for the color, as well as a transparency. What's the density of it? How easily can light go through this filament? Once you've got those colors in, there's several things you can do with it. Now, I've made little plaques and things up and bookmarks. And I will run them through Photoshop. And you might say, well, why bother using Photoshop? I'm there. It's of the Adobe products, it's probably, other than Lightroom, the one I'm most familiar with. And I can do it easily there. And there's some tricks I can do in there. For example, if I wanted to make up a banner and I wanted to be different colors for the text, I can create individual text items, right? Photoshop's going to make them into layers, and then all I have to do is associate a swatch with that layer, and the text color changes. Easy peasy. I can stick it all out the way I want. It all can be stacked up. It can be rotated. I can do whatever I want with each of those layers until I get what I want for a final product. If you're going to be doing something like I've also done, which is to try to turn a photograph into a print, one of the things you're going to realize there is you've got a lot more colors in your photograph than you have in your printer. So if you're curious about whether you can do it or not, you're going to have to do color replacement. So you pull in the picture that you want to use, and then start swapping out the colors. Now, this will be easier for you when you get to HueForge and you're popping things in because you'll know where the colors are. You'll let HueForge tell you where they show up in the list of layers, and then you can pop the colors into those layers and see how it comes out. But by swapping out the range of colors, for example, there's a lot of green, but you're going to have one. Right? You can tweak that a little bit, but you're basically going to have one green color. So by going into the photograph that you're anticipating using and swapping out that green for the green that you have in your filaments, you can get a feel for if this is going to be a good image for you to attempt. Because when you get into HueForge, certain things will move around a little bit as in terms of the darker stuff will be more toward the bottom, be thinner, whatever it's going to be. So you might be able to get something a little better out of HueForge than you're seeing in front of you as you swap out these colors. But if you go through and you change out some of the colors for what you get from HueForge, that can give you an idea of what it's going to look like when it's printed. You still have to go to HueForge. You still have to manipulate the filament layers, filaments by the layers to see how it's going to come out. And then the final verdict is going to be once it's printed. But in order for you to get to those steps, you can make a shortcut here by putting your swatches in and modifying your pictures in whichever color swap method seems best for you and what you're familiar with. And that'll give you a feel for what this thing could look like. You may be able to make it better. You may be able to make it maybe not as good, but it'll give you a good feel for what you're going to do for that. And again, it allows you to offer something new. Now, Creality has a flesh color. So if you're doing a person, you'll have a base Caucasian-ish flesh color. I say ish because it looks a little more yellow. But again, it's easy for you to manipulate that color by adding other colors in. If you want it to be dark but not too dark, you might move in a brown to blend with it, or a black to blend with it, or you might add a white to give that just a little bit of color, but not be so much that that's the main part of the color. So there's blending that you're going to do in HueForge that you might be able to do in Photoshop depending on your skill level. Or you could just swap it out with a base color and see how it looks at that point. But again, you're just looking to see if you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. Or if you're going to make a plaque, for example, let's say you're going to give a photo album and you want to make a plaque for it that's not burned into wood or something like that. It's just this nice little plastic plaque with a border around it that you have printed, and you want to manipulate the colors inside. You can do all of that through Photoshop, get it all laid out, use those swatches to put the colors in place so you know what it's going to look like when it comes out, and you're giving the person who's going to be doing the work, even if it's you, an idea of what you want it to look like. Into HueForge it goes, the colors get manipulated, and out comes your print. So again, this is something that's unique. It's not easy to do, but it's something that your customer will talk about and probably show off to other people because it's not something that's commonly seen or commonly done. And again, if it's something that you're not using it as a front lit item, you're using it as a backlit item, it may not look like anything at all until light hits it from the behind and out pops that image that you painstakingly took, manipulated, and put into plastic. So that's what I got for you guys this week. I will talk to you all next week.